Three.
Identifying as a mom, daughter, conservative, friend, parental rights activist, Republican Party delegate, lover of freedom, conspiracy theorist, mama bear, and force to be reckoned with, this is Raising Liberty with Lindsey Beckham. Good afternoon. Sorry we're late. I promise it's not my fault this time. It's totally Shaun's fault.
Of course. Everything is, right? That's my fault.
Exactly. But
Yep.
Truly, it really wasn't my fault.
All
And
right.
it always is. So I've
Yeah.
got to say that. And I know we're going to jump right into all the reasons why I'm right about who we should be voting for in this election. But I thought it would be a disservice to the listeners if we didn't talk Bridget Todd for just a few minutes. It's been a crazy week with her, right, Shaun?
Yeah. I mean, it's been pretty nuts. Now, refresh my recollection. It's been so much going on this week. It was she had an interview with WLBT. That's correct, right?
Yes, with
Okay.
Kara.
That's right. Kara Shirley, who does their WLBT plus.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
And so during that interview, when Kara was actually allowed to ask her questions when she would shut up long enough, Kara asked some really great questions, and we got some crazy responses.
They were indeed. I would think there was I remember the most shocking response from that interview was the fact that if Kara asked her if Carly were to be released, and again, this is Carly Gregg, the 14-year-old that was convicted of murdering her mother just back in September, and she said that the plan was her to come live with her. And
Yeah.
I said, well, that may have voided her life insurance policy, I would think.
I mean, I would think that
obviously
it
with,
would,
like
right?
State Farm, I'd be like, yep, we're done now. So,
Yeah.
if you're going to invite the murdering child to come live with you, I thought that was a bit much. But then there were several other things she said throughout that were a bit, I guess I'll use the word incredible, maybe.
I mean, I think that's too positive of a word to put on it. It's shocking. It's really
Right.
shocking. And then what took place after the interview was Bridget Todd went home, and much like earlier the night before she gave closing arguments, when she was searching Facebook and saw that I had made a post and arguing with me on Facebook, she went into the comments under the WLBT live stream and was just arguing with anyone who spoke a negative word against her or the case.
Yeah, it was, she was attacking all the Facebook commenters, and, as you know, I'm on the show with Clay, and I can imagine Clay, like, he would be spending his whole day attacking people that attack that's that's when you're in this business, my point is, I don't think you can't really do that, spend your time attacking people that are, watching your interview or whatever it is, and like, I think I said this on the radio, I mean, it's the same thing, it's clear to me, and I'm not a psychologist by any means, I'm a lawyer, and, that she exhibits some signs of some sort of mental illness. What that is, again, that's not my specialty. It's something's not right there. And I think that's, shown through even her answers in that interview about things that, she said another thing particularly was she said that Ashley Smiley, who is the mother of Carly Gregg, who was killed by Carly Gregg,
right?
Convicted by a jury, so we can say that now. It's not alleged anymore.
Right.
That she whatchamacallit, that she would be rolling over in her grave
What a choice of words, right?
if she knew that Carly was convicted with life without parole. And I'm like, well, it seems obvious to me, and I'm sure anyone's listening, that she wouldn't be in her grave if it wasn't for Carly. So
right.
she wouldn't have a grave to roll over in.
And
if she was,
I think it was a great question that Kara asked. Do you feel like maybe you're too close to Carly, or has this gotten to be where it's a conflict of interest? And she said no, and that she's going to be the one working this appeal. But I think you and I both disagree on that, and I really think the bar should step in. Honestly, this is outrageous.
Well, the problem too, and somebody asked this on the radio, and it was a good question. What they said was, can you set up a claim for competence? Is the way they asked it, which in the legal way of putting that is called ineffective assistance. Excuse me, ineffective. I'm having word salad like Kamala here today.
Can we not use that phrase, please?
Ineffective assistance of counsel, and well, in order to do that in an appeal, the lawyer that tried the case can't claim ineffective assistance on themselves. Like if I were to try a case and lose, I couldn't then say, well, I messed up because I was an ineffective lawyer. So you have to get a new lawyer to do that. And Ms. Todd was saying she was going to do the appeal, and so she can't make that kind of claim. So it's clear to me that Carly Gregg would be best suited with a different appellate lawyer to
Mhm.
raise those issues, and and I think you would you'd have to make those claims before the Supreme Court.
Yeah, one thing the audience didn't see that was watching the trial was at the end when they were arguing or the Miller hearing began,
Mhm.
and that's after the verdict, but before the sentencing.
Correct. Yeah, well,
And
no, it's the Miller hearing is the sentencing, but yeah, but it's just called that, and when you're dealing with a juvenile, then you have to have a sentencing hearing that's called a Miller hearing, Miller versus Alabama,
mhm.
and that hearing would determine whether the child's gonna be sentenced to life with parole or life without parole. So
And one thing that happened there was a piece of evidence that, the state wanted to bring in,
right.
and what we found out after the fact was that there was a drawing the jailers found in Carly's cell, and there was a pigeon or a duck with a knife through its beak, and then there was, like, fire all behind it, and it had been colored, and, one thing that resonated with me was the fact that Carly talked about fire so much in her diaries that
Mhm.
came out as evidence in the trial, and how that fire was evil, and it was what she would choose if she had to pick some sort of source, and, you know, they thought that this would show she still has violent tendencies.
Right.
Well, come to find out, it was actually Bridget Todd who had drawn that for Carly,
Mhm.
and so they ended up not being able to admit it into evidence because it wasn't Carly who actually drew it. But, I mean, how insane. It's mind-blowing. It's
Yeah, I don't
mind-boggling.
know what the purpose of that picture was. Obviously, I was an assistant DA for like 10 years, and I mean, I would have tried to introduce it, so I don't blame Catherine and Michael Smith, Catherine Newman and Michael Smith to do that.
Mhm.
I don't know why she would have sent that kind of image. I think,
Maybe because she's crazy?
well, I'll say you can say that. What I'll say is she definitely exhibits some issues there that I think are serious and something. And then, we were contacted by several listeners saying that they'd had issues with her in the past. And
More than several, more
yeah.
than several.
And so there's something, I don't know. I think somebody needs to, you're dealing with like what Carly Gregg did was horrible. I mean, we all know that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a horrible killing your mother. I mean, it's like one of the worst, things you could think of. But but you're still entitled to a competent representation. And I think, especially when you're dealing with a child that is now going to spend the rest of their life in prison. And that's, to really put that in perspective, what I can say it this way is that she may end up serving the longest sentence in the history of Mississippi. And what I mean by that is she's 14 or 15 now.
Mhm.
And if she lives like on the actuary tables to 78,
Right.
so this could be like an over 60 years that she's going to be in prison. And no one, I mean, that as far as I know, has ever served that amount of time.
And one thing
Mhm,
Bridget said as well was that she didn't regret not taking the plea.
she did say that, yeah, which is, I mean, a little
That
bit
doesn't even make any
ludicrous, I
sense.
thought, right? I mean, like, yeah, if I got life without parole and somebody offered me 40 years or 30 years as we hear,
Mhm.
I would have some regrets. I would have some regrets that I didn't take it. So,
So, to update anyone who hasn't been watching, they filed a motion for a new trial or a new
judgment notwithstanding the verdict.
that.
Yeah.
And, that was denied by Judge Dewey Arthur in Rankin County, and so now it has been appealed by the defense attorneys to the appellate court.
Yeah, they file a notice of appeal and it'll start the process.
So
But don't ask me to describe that because that is not my avenue. I'm a trial lawyer. Duh, I know that stuff, but the
but
appellate
Catherine and
process
Michael
is.
are done at this
Yeah,
point.
absolutely. Yeah, there's another thing she said in there. She said that I forgot. Thank you. Now, kind of jogged my memory. She said that the DAs are busy trying cases, so they won't get to write the what's called the appellee's brief is what the state files. Like
Mhm.
the defendant will file the appellate's brief, and the state
But they
files
don't
what's called
even
an
do that,
appellee's
it's
brief.
the Attorney General's
Attorney
office that
General's
does that.
office. They have a division that just handles that. Oh, one of the only things they handle. So yeah,
But she does adore Michael Smith, she did say
she
that, so
did. Yeah, Michael. Thanks. She did.
Alright, well, let's get in it. Let's get into it.
All right. What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about this election.
You want to talk about this
Let's
election?
talk
All
about the
right.
election.
Well, you go.
Alright,
Ask me whatever
well
you want.
well, many people know that I've never been a Trump fan. You know this very
Even
well,
though you're wearing the shirt.
because
Like,
I'm totally voting for Donald Trump,
right, I know.
and then there's
I
no
say that's
one.
like a faker here, like you.
No, 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 not at all,
Yeah,
not at all. I've never liked him.
mhm.
In fact,
Like JD Vance, right?
I know I'm a
Should
never
never Trump
Trump
guy,
girl,
never
never
liked
Trump.
him, right? Is
I
that
never
it?
liked him.
Yeah,
I still really don't.
mhm,
Actually, I really don't like him,
yeah,
as a person, but
right.
when it comes to what I'm concerned with, he is the only option. Now, I never cared anything about politics at all until my son Creed was vaccine injured.
Mhm.
And that's when I got involved. And that's when I said we need laws that are constitutional in the state of Mississippi when it comes to vaccine rights
Right.
and parental rights. Because Mississippi at that time was one of only 5 states that did not have a religious exemption,
Okay.
was clearly unconstitutional, violating religious liberties of Mississippians and parents. And so we fought at the state level, the legislative level for over a decade and got nowhere.
Yeah.
Now we were in the same boat with California, New York, New Jersey, all of these very Democrat liberal states. And here's Mississippi,
Mhm.
who won't give their citizens of the state an opportunity to exercise their religious freedoms
Right.
when it comes to vaccines. So that's how I got started. That's how I got involved. COVID hit and showed up at school board meetings and realized there were so many other things taking place at the public school level that were extremely concerning to me. So those are my areas. That's where I'm passionate.
Yeah.
And there is only one choice in this election, as far as I'm concerned, because of what I care about and because of what's important to me. You, on the other hand,
Mhm.
care about different things.
Right, sure. So, but, like, what specifically are those issues, that you would say that you like about Donald Trump?
Well, for one, he has promised to defund the Department of Education.
Okay, but you understand Republican presidents have promised that going back to Ronald Reagan, and it's never happened. And Trump was president for 4 years, and he didn't do it then, so what makes you think he's gonna do it now?
Because I just believe he will. I truly believe he will. I think our public education system has become so incredibly liberal and radical. What we're seeing happen in schools is insane.
Yeah, but, okay, but then you would also agree, though, that other Republican candidates, going back to Ronald Reagan, we're talking about, 40 years ago,
Mhm.
or over 40 years ago, have said this. This has been their line that we're gonna do, and I'm not against it, by the way. I don't have a problem. If you wanna get rid of the Department of Education, knock yourself out. That's not my thing. But there's obviously a reason they haven't done that. And it because it's been on the books for probably almost as long as we've been alive. This has been one of their talking points that we'll get rid of the Department of Education. And none of them have done it. Is there a reason why you think they haven't done it?
I'm not sure because, I mean, as I was just saying, I wasn't politically involved
Right, okay.
until, 2017 is
Yeah,
when I really started to pay attention way more than I ever had before, and I've said this many times, it's because when I realized things were affecting my children,
right.
the mama bear came out in me, and it was like, "I will change laws. I will do whatever it takes to make this world a better place for my children than the way they came into it," and I'm not okay with the way the public education system is handling things at the current time at this moment.
No, and I get that, but I'm saying, like, it's not just because now, I think we probably agree about there's been a leftward bent in education, and, when I went with you to the Moms for Liberty conference, I talked to many former Democrats who were explaining those
Mhm.
issues to me, and so, I mean, I think I agree with you on that, but what I'm saying is, though, before there was that, Republicans have wanted to do this for, 44 years at this point, and they've never been able to do it. But all of them have said it, that, like, we're gonna get rid of the Department of Education. We're gonna defund it's kinda like Democrats defund the police. We're gonna defund the Department of Education. And none of them have done that. And I wonder if it's because I assume it's because there's such an extensive bureaucracy within it that it's made it impossible. So it's not like Donald Trump couldn't have done that when he was president between 2017 and 2021. I mean, Republicans already run on that for decades at that point. It's something that was on the platform essentially that he could have done, but he chose not to do that. So, but you're thinking now he's more likely to do that? Is that
I
because
do, I do, I
I
believe
mean,
that.
but why do you think that? Because
Just
he
because
didn't do
I
it before.
believe things have become more and more radical in
Yeah.
the public school system, and I think it can't be ignored anymore.
Okay.
And I think that parents have woken up to the fact of what's happening in schools. Moms and dads don't want their daughters to be forced to use a bathroom with boys. There's already been sexual misconduct, sexual abuse happening in schools. We've got to stop it. It's gotta stop somewhere.
Well, the thing what I'm saying is I'll bank you a bet, right? Like that we'll see if he's elected a year from now, there's still gonna be Department of Education. And 2 years
We'll
from now,
see.
it's because and I'm not even saying he might not have the political will to try to do it. What I'm saying is there's such an extensive bureaucracy that I don't think he's able to do it. I don't think it's something that can be done. Like, it's just not just like because I mean, it's been tried for 44 years again. and no movement on it. It's just gotten bigger. Real, I don't know. You probably know the numbers of what we spend on the Department of Education more than I do. That's
Well,
kind of your issue.
yeah, and, that's why I'm such an advocate for school choice as well.
I'd like to see what we've increased funding for the Department of Education between 1980 and today. I bet you it's probably like quadrupled. I'm just
Well,
throwing out as a
but it's not
guess,
only
but
that, we're not funding students, we're funding systems. We're
right.
funding superintendents. And here in Mississippi, we have the highest paid superintendent in the country.
Right.
And what do we have to show for it?
Right,
You
when that's different. We're talking about the state level, though. Then
Right.
you're talking about federal, the federal Department of
Well,
Education.
I'm just for burning the whole thing down.
Right, you just wanna get rid of all
I
of
wanna
it.
get rid of all
Right,
of it,
okay.
all of it.
Well, I mean, I just think it's I just like I said, I think and not to, like, keep on beating this horse with it, like, Republicans have talked about this for, 44 or 45 years now, and I'm sure the spending has increased, and they've made no progress, and we're talking about we've had Reagan as president, George H.W. Bush, then there was George W. Bush,
Mhm.
and then Donald Trump.
Well, I'll
So
tell
there's
you
been a
this,
chance for them to do it, and they just haven't done it.
Well, I think parents and parental rights and parents exercising their parental rights is different today than it
Right.
was in the past.
Well, I mean, I think that I think it seems that parents like your guys' groups are a lot more activated in terms of but also I think there's a difference between, like, the things you're showing me that they're doing now, it probably wasn't happening in, like, 1985.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, like, I remember you and I were in school, like, I'm about 5 years older than you, so, generally the same time, and
Mhm.
I think I was telling somebody at that conference, like, the book I remember reading was My Brother Sam is Dead. That was, like, the seminal book they gave elementary school students, It
Mhm.
wasn't these other kinds of, books like I don't have a problem with The Hate U Give, but I don't think an 8-year-old should probably read it either. I mean,
Right,
it's one of those
exactly, and
things,
that's all
but
we've ever asked for. It's just age-appropriate material
yeah,
be put into public schools instead of this outrageous, pornographic, explicit
well, I mean, certainly there's been a
content.
leftward shift for whatever reason in the education system that's been drastic since we were in grade school, I would
Mhm.
think. But obviously something back then bothered conservatives enough to where that was part of the platform
I think
to
they
get
saw
rid
it
of,
coming. I think
you know
they saw it coming.
maybe that could maybe other reason. There could have been other reasons. I don't know exactly. I wasn't, I was too young to really know back then. But I just know that this is something they've tried to do unsuccessfully. Now bordering on half a century. So it'll be interesting to see if he's elected. If that's going to happen. I don't have a problem with it. He wants to do that. Knock it out. But
What do you have a problem with?
what do I have a problem with?
Mhm.
What about?
About what Donald Trump would do in
Um,
office.
I was talking to Clay about that this morning. It's I'm a different in terms of being a Democrat I don't hate him, right? I don't have a
Are you sure?
I'm not no, it's not a hate. It's not a hate. I get why people voted for him. I understand that. It's not something I would ever do, but I understand why people voted for him because they're mad. Like this world has changed extensively since 1990. Let's use that as an example, right? So in 1990, this is kind of pre-internet age or just the beginnings of it.
The
You know,
dial-up age.
yeah, right. I mean, we're just starting that. And the world looks vastly different in such a short period of time from
Yeah.
1990 to 2024. Then let's say you take like a similar time period, 1950 to 1990. Well, the world had, if you went from a record player to an 8-track and, you had like more, dependable car, maybe, I don't know. And the TVs got a little better,
Leslie went to the moon.
but we didn't have this access to information. We didn't have this
Yeah.
total revolution in the way we did business, the way, things changed. There was a larger blue collar job base. This was before we started shipping jobs off seas
Mhm.
during NAFTA. So the public is mad because, your party, this is what we used to say as Democrats in the 90s too, was took advantage of them too, because it was the George H.W. Bush, kind of Mitt Romney political class that kind of took advantage of them. And these folks were rightfully angry. And I think Donald Trump represented that anger to them. So I get it. Like, I don't ever I think a lot of liberals look at it and be like, how could you vote for him? He's crazy or he's whatever.
Mhm.
But I get that. Like, I get why they voted for him. I don't have a
Yeah,
problem
I
with
don't think
that.
I didn't talk to my dad for like 2 weeks because he voted for him, and I was
Right.
so against it in 2016, and that's one thing that he said was, "I've never been more proud to be an uneducated white male."
Yeah, you showed me the post. I remember.
Mhm. I
Right.
was furious. I was like, "I cannot believe he put this on Facebook." I was so mad. I think that's so silly now looking back, but, we were talking about how, these people who are out canvassing and door knocking, and are they really doing it? Is Donald Trump having the same amount of people go out and really advocate for him that Kamala's having for her? Because it looks as though maybe not. And we
Well,
talked about it. We're like, well, maybe it's because those people are at work.
yeah, it could be. Also, historically, Democrats have just had a better ground game than Republicans. They've been able to organize on the ground level historically just better, and they're better at it. Also, Kamala has a lot more money, and she's raised more money than I think any presidential candidate ever. I mean, it was like $1 billion so far. So
Mhm.
there's a lot more money to be spread around and those things. And the Republicans, like I said, in terms of their ground games, they're using one of Elon's groups now, who just wasn't really skilled in how to do this. So that's been an issue for them in that regard, for sure, for sure. But so I mean, I don't know how that's going to play out long term because I think the Trump voter gets very motivated just by him, and you see that when he's on the ballot, they come out to vote. People, they're called like low propensity voters, and
Mhm.
they come out to vote. Right
Yeah.
now, now off years they don't come out to vote because he's not on the ticket. Because he, that's why like his candidates that he endorses in off year, off cycle elections lose because there are these people that like I listened to something the other day said, Trump's the only one that can do MAGA. These other people can't do MAGA, and that's why they lose their races, like Carrie Lake. Mark Robinson's about to be slaughtered. I mean, there's just a list of them.
Don't say
Dr.
that. Don't say
Oz.
that yet. Don't
It's
say
gonna be
that
pretty
yet.
bad. It's gonna be pretty bad. Herschel Walker, Dr. Oz, like these things, Doug Mastriano. I mean, these folks just could Trump's the only one that can play his game. He's the only one that's been able to do that successfully.
I think he's done a much better job here lately on the campaign trail, the podcast, and just being more relatable. He's funny. He's a funny guy.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
is
some of the stuff
definitely.
he says is really entertaining, and not on a crazy level, on a funny level. So I think he does so much better when he humanizes himself instead of talking about people eating dogs and cats. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, that's true. I mean, his campaign strategy was far more effective the last 3 to 4 weeks. Like you said, the podcast strategy has done very well. He's not said a lot of the crazy see, what the people don't like is the crazy stuff. Like, your average voter is not his base likes it, and that's fine, but the people you need to win an election don't like it. So when he started off in August talking about, remember, like, she's not really black. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're on the right, you love that stuff, but a lot of people are like,
and
this
the
is one of the
crowd
reasons.
size. I don't care how big your crowd size is. I care about who's coming out to vote. On
Yeah.
that day, we care about crowd size.
And that's the thing, right? And those people, and then you start about eating cats and dogs. That kind of stuff doesn't win elections. I think he kind of reformed. He fired some people back. I think brought back Lewandowski, got rid of Laura Loomer, who needs to be
Thank
put in the
God.
basement
Thank
somewhere.
God. She needs to be up there with Bridget Todd in the loony bin.
Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. And he reformed his entire strategy, which has been very effective the last few weeks. He's of course it's a podcast. He's not saying these crazy things, and he's just kind of holding the ship tight. I mean, he mentioned Arnold Palmer's dick last weekend, but that's about the only thing that I think that he said really kind of nutty lately. So he's done a good job with that. And yesterday I'd put a post up on Facebook that it angered some of my Democrat friends because I said, contrast, Kamala Harris has run she shifted back to the threats to democracy narrative, right?
Mhm.
Instead of like, she's not putting together a coherent vision for America, and that's bothering people. It's just like, Donald Trump is bad, vote for me.
Right. That's
And
the only
that's
thing
just,
that's the only
yeah.
thing she
And
says.
that doesn't, I was talking to a friend of mine, we're both former Marines, and we were out mountain biking yesterday. And we're like, when we voted for Obama, was about hope and change, right?
Mhm.
I mean, yes, he shitted on, excuse me, we're on a podcast, I can do that, on George W. Bush, right?
Mhm.
He did, because, and there was a lot of reasons to do that. I mean, a lot of reasons to do that. Obviously, we're heading toward the Great Recession, all those years in Iraq, which was completely contrived. The Bush presidency was a disaster, in my opinion. So Obama did, attack those things, but he also like resonated a different message, like why you were going to vote for him. And of course, I think he did a great job. Unemployment was at 2009 was at 9.9 when he left office, it was about 5.1. He got Osama bin Laden. He recovered us from that recession. So he focused on the future. Kamala, on the other hand, is not doing that.
No.
She is focusing on Donald Trump.
Right.
And that's the only thing. And that's not a winning strategy.
No, I don't think so either. But I mean, to tell you why I'm a Republican, I mean, I believe in the free market. I believe in limited government. I believe in parental rights. I believe in religious freedom.
Yeah.
These are the issues that I care greatly and deeply about. Tell me why you're a Democrat.
To why I'm a Democrat?
Mhm.
Well, I'll tell you why, exactly why I became a Democrat. So I was a Republican when I was like in my late teens, when I was in the Marines and stuff. And I worked at the Ohio General Assembly is what they call it. Like, here's the legislature. And I was a legislative aide in the Republican caucus, right? When I thought I was a conservative.
I bet y'all didn't know that.
Because yeah, at the time I was not a Bill Clinton fan, and then I saw the Republicans were pushing forward George W. Bush, who I was like, this is not somebody I like at all. And I liked John McCain back then. I know a lot of Trump people hate him. I think he's an American hero. And
He went through hell.
yeah, absolutely. And excuse me, but yeah, so I switched it. At that point, I switched and I volunteered for the Gore campaign, and that's kind of what started But at that time, it was different than what we're talking about today. We were, at that time when I became a Democrat, we were for the rights of labor, you know, for unions, for blue collar workers.
Which now the unions have come out
Now they
and
become
support the Republican
Republican.
Party.
We were also though for individual freedoms too, in terms of like if you want to, you want to be gay and get married to somebody, you can do that. Republicans were not for that. They were completely against that, restricting those rights. I'm obviously pro-choice. I don't think it's anybody's business to tell you what to do with your body,
But it's
kind of
not
way.
but I disagree. It's not your body, it's another body.
Right, which is your viewpoint. I just don't hold that viewpoint. But I mean, you're asking the reasons why I became a Democrat, and those are the
Mhm.
reasons. So, like, I felt like the conservatives were always telling me what to do morally. I'm not a fan of the Christian right. Not, never have been. I mean, not I'm a Christian, but I'm not a fan of this people being held to this moral standard that they themselves don't live up to, but they're telling me I got to live my life this way.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
I
I
can
think
understand
that's a
that.
lot of you see a lot with the Trump folks that or kinda like feel the way I feel though about that, fake morality. Obviously, Trump is I don't think morality is his thing, right? I don't think we agree
I
on that.
mean, Stormy probably wouldn't say so.
No, I mean, I don't think he's, anybody that thinks he's some big religious moral guy is kinda, out to lunch because that's not true.
So, there's obviously a big gender gap in this
100%, yeah.
election.
Mhm.
Why do you think that is?
Lots of reasons for that. So, women are getting educated at a much higher rate than men. Right now, we're looking at 60% of bachelor's degrees in college are going to women. So they've out educated their counterparts. And I'm not saying that's necessarily why they have to vote Democrat, but right now, Kamala Harris is winning white college educated voters by a pretty substantial margin. That's her base. Trump is white non college educated voters. Then, of course, I think the Dobbs decision has a big impact on it.
Mhm.
And it's not just I think the misconception is that it's, "Oh, I wanna kill a baby, that's why they're voting." That's not it. I think when you talk to women and the things they say is that, like, it's somebody telling me what I can do with my body or whatever decision and what's next.
Okay, so why can they tell me I have to get a vaccine in order to enter a restaurant or a building or show a vaccine card or to get on a plane?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think we're on the same page on that one. I don't think they should be able to do that either. Just like I don't think you should be able to say someone can't have an abortion if they want to do that. So, I think that's why. So, like, I think that women have like decided that like the Republican Party doesn't really hold a lot for us right now, and that's why you're seeing it's something like 80% of single women are voting for Kamala Harris. I think it's like 54% of married women are voting for her. So they've just and then now it's a flip on the men's side because here's the problem with what's going on with men the Democrats are not offering them anything. What they're doing is saying, you're bad for being a guy. There's all this toxic masculinity as we hear
Right.
about.
Mhm.
Like anything that you want to do related to being a guy is negative and you're being anti-woman or you're anti-trans or whatever all this stuff is, right? And so like they're not offering men anything. They're kind of it's also men are like being treated like second-class citizens. And this is not just white men, by the way.
Mhm.
Like Trump is having, I read the other day, the largest coalition, like largest racial coalition ever but only one gender. So what I mean by that is he's having white men, black men, Asian men, Indian men, Hispanic men are all voting for him because they're not happy because they feel like their rights as men are being devalued by the Democrats, which are a lot, I agree with a lot of that too. I think that's probably true, and I can see why they feel that way, and vice versa. I understand why the women feel that way too. So we've created these like cultural divides between the sexes based on politics now and certain policies, which is never really. I mean, there's always women have always tended a little bit more liberal than men over the years, but not to this extent that we're seeing now. And again, like I was referencing earlier, the education divide is a lot to do with that because there's never been this many women with bachelor's degrees and men getting left so far behind. And I don't know what the answer for that is, like why men are not attending college as much as women, or why they're not graduating such high rates. That's an interesting, from like a sociological perspective, that's an interesting thing, but I don't know why that's actually occurring at this point.
I don't know either, but to get back to the abortion
Mhm.
topic for a minute, you know, Trump didn't ban abortions. What the Supreme Court did or what the Supreme Court ruled, the Supreme Court that he put in place was to give it back to the states and let the states decide. So it's not actually that he took abortion away from females.
Yeah, but I mean, you can I mean, he phrases that way. I mean, I love when he says, everybody wanted it back in the States. No, they didn't. Half the country didn't want it. I mean, that's why they're so mad about it. He didn't ban abortion. No, that's not what happened. The Dobbs court ruled that, yeah, it's a state's issue. They need to vote on it, right? And which, by the way, I don't know if I necessarily have a problem with that. From
Well,
looking
I
from a
do.
constitutional, what you would think they should have banned it outright.
But no, think it's a problem for the people in the state to vote on it when it comes to, like, a ballot initiative.
Well, I think it's like a problem here. We discussed that before. Like, so in Mississippi, like I'm fine. I don't have a problem. It sounds funny as a liberal saying this. I don't have a problem with the Dobbs decision. Like, because I'm a student of constitutional law. Like, I understand. I felt like the Supreme Court and the Roe decision derived a constitutional right that didn't really exist.
Right.
I mean, so give it back to the states. Got no problem with that. The problem I have is what the right is doing to prevent voting on this issue. Because every state where abortion has been on the ballot, pro-choice, it's won. Every state, in conservative states too. Ohio, Kansas, passed completely.
Mhm.
Now in this state, we tried to do an initiative this year. We couldn't do it. Why? Because they didn't want abortion on the ballot. Because it's going to pass here, and that's what they're
I don't know
scared
that it
of.
would pass here, but what I do
I
know
disagree. It's going to
well,
pass.
what I do know and what I'm afraid of, and I think what a lot of Republicans are afraid of, are these interest groups who come in and pour money into the state. They give you a false narrative, they lie to get get the voters to do what they want, and
See,
then
I think that's I
you get around the
disagree.
Republican
You've made that
legislatures.
argument so many times. Like, I don't like so if I'm pro-life, right? Somebody's like some ads are gonna turn me into a pro-choice person. Like, how are some ads gonna turn me?
The
That's
groups
just I feel like that's a cop out from the right where because they know what the end result is here because they've seen the end result in every other state.
but it's up to we the people anyway. We elect our legislators who go during session and make the laws of the state.
Well, I mean, I think that's pretty convenient when it blocks an issue you don't want, though. I mean,
You know, I just think whoever has the money
mhm,
is going to push the narrative that they are behind, even if it's not the correct narrative. For example,
mm,
you've seen the ads where women can't cross state lines without a pregnancy test, or
sure, right, yeah,
that's outrageous. That's not happening.
okay,
There's also been this narrative, even and Kamala Harris said this in the town hall, that women are dying because they can't get DNCs, and they've had a baby, a miscarriage, and then there's still baby
but what does
parts
that
left in
have
'em.
to do with the state of Mississippi being able to
But
vote
that's
on it?
not really
I mean, that
happening.
doesn't
That's not
well,
what what's happening is that they're getting abortion pills,
okay,
and they're sent home to have an abortion by themselves with no support,
yeah.
and that's when those types of issues happen. And then they can't get the help they need in the right amount of time. It's not because states are being told or hospitals are being told that they can't help a woman who's had a miscarriage. It's just not that's not
Okay,
happening.
and I'll agree with you here. I'm sure the Democrats are running, like, ads that are not true. I mean, just like the Republicans do the same thing. This is politics. I get it, right?
Mhm,
I have no doubt, but again, I'll go back to what we were just talking about. If I'm pro-life, like you are, right?
mhm.
Is an ad on TV gonna turn me into a pro-choice liberal? No, right? Just like you're not gonna turn me into a pro-life person.
I don't know, I
I
think there are
mean
some very compelling
I mean,
ads.
but that's a pretty but that's a different than, like, you know, arguing about the tax rate. I mean, it seems like it's a pretty, like, personal religious decision the way you feel one way or the other, I would think. And, I mean, so, like, I don't know that an ad is gonna say, "Well, guess what? Now I'm pro-choice, yet I've been a religious pro-life person my whole life." I think that's Republicans in this state trying to cop out of what the result they know that's gonna happen because they've seen the trend in other conservative states, and think about this, how scared are they gonna be, like, if this state approves abortion, and this is a state that overturned Roe. I mean, it's gonna have a lot of people are gonna have egg on their face. I think that's what they're scared
Well,
about. That's
I
the real
think
reason
they
behind
don't
that.
want that to happen, of course.
Yeah, because they got egg on
But
their face,
well,
yeah.
no, I think that like I said, I think that they're afraid of these big think tank groups that are funded by a lot of dark money coming in and changing the narrative because they lie.
But that's what
They
I'm saying.
absolutely lie, and it doesn't stop there. It's gonna go into gun rights, legalization of drugs,
But how's it gonna go into gun
election
rights?
integrity,
I don't how's it gonna go into gun
because that's what's gonna happen. That's gonna be put on the ballot. Look, I was
You think
all
people in Mississippi
for
are gonna vote against their gun rights? They're gonna, like, "Let's take away our gun" in Mississippi?
I think if you have
I
someone come
mean
in I'm just telling you, there's where money is,
yeah.
that changes votes. It just does.
I mean, I don't think there's in any circumstance that Mississippians are gonna vote to take away their gun rights. I don't see that could ever happen. You know, I don't see that happening. I think here is simply obvious the issue is they're scared about that this could become a pro-choice state because every other state's become one. There's no state that has said, "We don't wanna be a pro-choice state." Now, there's an issue in Florida, and the Republicans are fighting like hell there to do things to stop this, Amendment 4, I think is what it's called. Ron DeSantis is fighting like cats and dogs against it.
Who is
Now
my favorite, by
I
the
know
way.
he is, but I know he is, but now you need a 60% margin in Florida, right? That's
Mhm.
to get it, and it's a possibility they may not get it, you know? So that would be the first one that denied it, if that happens. Now, I'm not saying it is. I kind of think it's going to pass. But that would be the first one if it happened. But at this point, as we sit here and speak, there's not one state where this has been on the ballot that the state has said, nope, we want to be pro-life. So I mean, how do you rationalize that with here? You see what I mean? Like,
Well, let's talk about Kamala's VP pick and Tim Walz and what he's done.
no, I wanted
in
to
his-
finish this abortion conversation
No,
because
I'm
we
telling.
gotta. I mean, we gotta
absolutely
go
told
like
you.
because I'm winning and you don't like
Absolutely,
that.
I've absolutely told you what I believe. I
Yeah.
believe that these left leaning
Yeah.
groups, Planned Parenthood has all the money in the world. They are always going to have more money to push
But
their
how does
agenda.
that change somebody's mind to
Because
then
it
be
does, Shaun.
pro-choice?
Just like when people show
But
up.
how?
Shaun, you know as well as I do that when you go door to door, you knock on doors to get votes. That's the most compelling is when you're talking to someone face to face and they're telling you why you should vote for them. It works. When you are pouring money into that, it's going to work.
Wait,
It can work.
So someone is all of a sudden gonna be like, "You're right. Now I'm for abortions." Like they're gonna be for that? I don't.
No, but when
I
you
mean,
go to someone and say,
this would be
this is what the Republicans are doing to you, if you have a miscarriage
uh-huh.
and you are all of a sudden in sepsis because there's still baby parts remaining in you,
Right.
and the Republicans have made it where the doctors can't do anything about it,
Right.
that's going to change your mind.
So,
Come on.
So that's gonna change your mind because they're gonna say
Because they're lying about what's happening.
They say you're gonna die on the table if we don't have abortion.
But let's talk about what's happening in Minnesota. What Tim Walz has done.
I know you want to talk about what's happening in Minnesota because you don't want to finish this.
Stop it, because I'm talking about abortion.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay.
What he has done in Minnesota is that he has made it where you can have an abortion at any point in your pregnancy and you don't need parental consent to do it. So there are children who are being put in that position where they are having a baby inside of them murdered.
Right.
Their parents have no idea what's going on.
Well, I think I could agree with you. I'm not for abortion in any stage of the pregnancy. Obviously, I'm for the Rose standard, which is first trimester, which is 24 weeks, I think is right. I look at the number.
No, the first trimester is the first 13 weeks.
I thought it was 20 and 24 if I'm looking at the Rose standard. I think was 20. I could be wrong, but I think it's something like that. So I'm for that. I'm not for, I think
I've had a couple pregnancies. I know how.
Yeah, you should know better than me, right? Now I'm just not, I think you need to make up your mind. Or, Europe's got a standard, it's a 15-week standard, which I think would be fine if we just implemented that here nationwide. I think that would be.
But no, we have to go to the extreme. We have to be so completely radical.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that either. I mean, I think the Democrats have pushed it from, the 90s standard, the 2000 standard, even the Obama standard of legal, safe, and rare. And that's been a problem. But then y'all have pushed it to this Handmaid's Tale thing now. So it's like we're both on these opposite ends of the spectrum where the Democrats will kill babies, whatever, and then the Republicans, want you guys to put on a veil and never do that kind of stuff. So I think that's the problem.
Here's another thing that's happened recently is that certain states, like Tim Walz, state of Minnesota, they have made it where if you have an abortion and yet the baby is still somehow born alive, you don't have to give that baby any life-saving measures.
And I disagree with that too. I mean,
it's insane.
But see, that's what I'm saying.
Murder.
But extremism breeds extremism. That's what happens when one party does one thing, then you got these Tim Walz people who are doing something crazy like that.
This is your party's VP nominee.
Right. I don't agree with that, but I don't agree with what y'all did either, blocking abortion and all the,
We didn't block abortion.
Well,
we put
that's
it back
what's
in the hands
happened
of
in
the
most of the states.
So now who's right?
No, you're not right. You still haven't. I still have not figured out how somebody's just going to automatically become pro-choice if they've been religiously pro-life.
You know as well as I do that money wins elections.
Well, I mean, their religious values kind of suck, didn't they? If they just changed their mind.
Well, if they're being lied to,
so they could just change their mind.
If you're being lied to, you're gonna change what you believe because you're being lied to about something that's not accurate.
Okay, we're just gonna have to disagree on this. This is not gonna, because I don't agree with that. Because
Shaun wins this one, man.
Oh, you have lost your mind. You have absolutely lost your mind. Let's talk about immigration.
No, I don't even.
So, Shaun, your dad was an immigrant.
Correct, he was. I want
to have him on the I really do want to get him on the podcast to tell his story.
Yeah, he's got interesting stories, but you were going to ask me basically is he against illegal immigration? Yeah, there's not a single legal immigrant that is for illegal immigrants, because here's what my dad says, and I grew up with a bunch of legal immigrants in Miami who will it's just like anything else. It's like people that don't want their other people's student loans paid off, because they had to pay them off themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing. My dad's like, well, this crap I had to do to get in here, and he's got this whole. I mean, he came here in 1968, and he didn't become a citizen until 1980, and I was born in 1979. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he went through a process.
He did it the right way.
Yeah, to do it, and so he's completely against it. He's on. I mean, he hates Donald Trump with a passion, And my dad, by the way, is a hardcore. He loves Reagan, right?
Mhm.
And he still thinks President Nixon was done wrong. Like
Very conservative.
that's how
Your dad's very
conservative he is. He's super conservative. Cannot stand Donald Trump. You know, he's voting for Kamala Harris because he just is like, I cannot do this anyway. But yeah, no, he would agree with him on the border stuff. You know, and that's been, of course, that's been a massive failure of the Biden administration. This last 4 years
Yeah.
basically is what they've done on there. So no, I mean, I think that I think Trump's right when you can't have a country without a border. I think that's true, and that's something that the Biden. I think that's a problem. See, this is when liberal ideology goes really far left, right?
Yeah.
When they're just like, okay, well, we're just gonna let everybody come in here, and this is gonna be kumbaya because we want to. I mean, I think it comes from like a good moral place where they're like, people want to come here because we're the greatest country in the world. I don't care what anybody says, and that's why everybody wants. Nobody's moving to Iraq. Like no one's trying to get in there. Like
But
no
what
one's
are you
doing.
going to say to parents whose child has been killed by an illegal immigrant?
No, but this is not what my point is. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I get why people want to come here. Like I'm not saying they should do that illegally. Absolutely not. But I get it because this is the greatest country in the world. I disagree with Trump that we're failing it. This is the greatest country in the world. We have been, and hopefully we always will be. But but I get why they're trying to come. But they just need to they need to do it legally. Like they got to do that legally. So and then and Biden and them, I think, have thought this way that a lot of people on the far left think, like, well, if you just want to come here to better your life, we have to let everybody here. No matter how you get here, which is just not right. And we've seen the results.
They use the word when you're in danger and you need a refuge,
asylum. Yeah.
So we used to let people come
right
for those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, no, we still do. So like the Haitians have political asylum.
The ones that eat the dogs and cats?
They eat the dogs and cats. Even the dog and cat Haitians have political asylum. So no, Trump he's right about that. Like the Democrats have dropped the ball on this issue. It's 100% true. The problem I have with him is the way he presents it, right? And it feels like it's an attack on all immigrants. When you say, like when you're talking about, okay, and I'll use this. So where I can be like, Trump, I agree with you on the border. Like, and I agree with you that Biden has done a terrible job with you on that. But when you say that people are eating cats and dogs who are legal, they're legal immigrants. They're not illegal immigrants.
They're here to work.
They're here to work.
They have work visas, right?
You're demonizing people just from the fact that they're immigrants. Now that I got a problem with. So I think it's the way, again, this goes my whole problem, the way he presents things. Not when he's funny. I think he's funny on a lot of things. It's just the rhetoric, when the way he presents things. And I think it bothers people like me and a lot of other people. And that's why you have a country right now that is 50-50, right? Because I'll give you this way. If Trump wasn't Trump and he was another Republican candidate, I think that person would win by 60% based on the issues right now, because the Democrats have moved so far away from where I started with them during Gore's era, right? That the majority of the country is not with them on a lot of the issues, except for abortion, right? I think 7 out of 10 Americans favor abortion. But other than that, there's not really an issue that favors the Democrats in this cycle at all. Nothing. So but this election is 50-50. Well, why do you think that is?
Well, because a lot of people dislike Donald Trump.
That's exactly why. And that's why you've got that. So that's the thing. And I think that, that's why we are where we're now. A lot of people don't like Donald Trump, and a lot of people think the Democrats are crazy. I mean, that's kind of,
they kind of are.
When you're trying to tell people that a dude should play in women's sports, you
well,
sound like a lunatic.
You're Kamala Harris and you are making sure that transgender people in prison have access to taxpayer
that I think is a good idea, actually. That's the
one.
Stop
it?
No,
That's
I can't say that. That is
you
funny.
You can say it, but it's not funny.
Okay, and see, Daniel should listen to this. My theory on this, like, I think I'm not for the government paying for transgender surgery, except if you're in prison, because I think it will quail the male population. If we do this, think about it, safer prisons, like you turn some of them into females, there you go. Like, I think it's a good, it'll keep them okay. But that's the only aspect I'm for it. But otherwise, so Kamala, the one good idea Kamala had, there it is, right?
That's absurd.
I mean,
that's absolutely ridiculous.
But when you think about it operationally, it's not that bad of an idea. Yeah, I mean, just pull out the dick saw, and you got it,
well, just go over to Tim Walz's house. I'm sure he's got one.
He's probably got a table there, I mean, whatever.
I'm sure he can do it for you.
But so that's where we're on this election. The Democrats look like lunatics because they talk about crap like this, right? And then everybody hates Trump. I mean, that's where we are. I mean, that's the election that you're looking at right now.
Last night we were taking polls. We were looking at polls. I don't even remember what website we were on, but every time we did it, and they kept giving us different questions, but every time you got that you agreed more with Kamala, and
Yeah.
that every time I did, I agree more with Trump.
Well, actually, I think I was split down the middle, like, almost every time, right? I had, like, 3 Trump, 3 Kamala, 3 Trump, 3 Kamala.
Well, one thing to me that I'm bothered by, and I know you know a lot more about history than I do. I mean, you were a nerd growing up and read all those history books that I didn't. But, you've been very much in support of funding the Ukraine war.
Absolutely, yeah.
But here in America, I'm a mom with 5 kids and can't afford groceries.
Mm-mm.
And so it bothers me that we're
Sure.
sending billions and billions of dollars to another country when we're not taking care of people here. But all of a sudden, we can't take care of people here when they wanna have a sex change surgery in jail. Like, it just
Again, the sex change in jail is cool. The other
No,
stuff
it's really
is
not,
not.
it's really
But
That's not funny, Shaun, quit saying
you
it.
know, well, no, I mean, I'm telling you, listen, everybody really think about it. The Ukraine war is the Russians are our enemy, and I really wish the public is most of the public is clear on this. There's not. They've always been our enemy
I thought
since.
Putin was our friend. I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm
he's not.
kidding. I'm
Oh, and
kidding.
by the way, this is a man who's been president of Russia since 2000. I mean, sounds like, oh, that's a real free, fair society we got there. 24 years, this guy's been in power. They've been our enemy since 1945, and we fought a long Cold War against them. The Cold War, in my mind, is not over. It has never ended, really. And this has been the biggest bang for our buck in any time during the Cold War. We have more Russians are dead than we've ever been able to kill, and we've lost no American soldiers in it. So yeah, I say I'd give them more because Ronald Reagan would be smiling in his grave if he saw the results of what we've done to the Russian military vis-a just our money. So I think that's something that's very important because getting rid of Russia or at least neutralize them makes us safer in my mind. And I mean, people call me a cold warrior and all that
But
stuff because
money, like,
that's
where is
fine.
this
But
money coming from?
well,
Because
it's
we're in this deficit.
and we the only time we remember I showed you the numbers last night. The only time we've not been in deficit, right, or we had a surplus was Bill Clinton was president. Ronald Reagan did massive deficit spending. George H.W. Bush, Barack
Well,
Obama,
when does it
Donald Trump.
stop? Like,
Well,
when does it stop?
but no, because no one wants to stop it. And
But,
no
I
one's
mean,
going to stop
because
it.
all the things when we were taking these quizzes that you were for,
Mhm.
such as healthcare for everyone, I mean, where does the money come
But the
from?
thing is, but see, your side is for other things. They just want to spend the money on other things. It's not like they want to cut spending. They don't do that. What they do is they cut taxes and don't cut spending. Like they don't want to do that. Nobody wants to cut spending. Like this is Rand Paul actually lays this out. Who's Republicans,
I love him.
lays this out very well. The Republicans when they're not in power talk about cutting spending, but when they get in power, they increase it, and then they cut taxes. And the Democrats are talking about, oh, we're going to be reasonable in our spending. And they get in power and they spend even more. So everybody likes spending. That's something that everybody needs to understand. Like nobody is against spending, or at least they'll say they're against it, but they're really not. And that's what happens. I mean, that's why every president, Republican or Democrat, except for Bill Clinton, has had a deficit. Every single one.
Well, I mean, I think what we saw with COVID, I mean, that really put us in a bad place. And
Sure.
what bothers me is that now the Democrats are saying that we're in the best economic place we've been in God knows how long. That can't be true. People can't afford to live. They can't afford to buy a house. They can't afford to put gas in their car. They can't afford to feed their children. That's not accurate.
Actually, gas prices look pretty low now. Have you noticed that lately? But that could be because of the election. Who knows? The unemployment
pretty low. What is pretty low?
I mean, I'd say it's like $2.50 is what I just paid today.
Pretty low for
What?
the last 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. But I mean, well, unemployment right now is at 3.7%, which is very good. I mean, it's not what we're having is an inflationary problem, which is, and I'm not even going to blame. Look, I'm not going to blame Trump 100%. The Democrats did it too. Like they were all in cahoots during COVID.
Well, supply and demand is a
well, and we printed. There was
common sense.
At the end of 2020. There was $4 trillion of excess liquidity in the market. I mean, this was inevitable. Our friend Russ Latino, give him a shout out, wrote a Facebook post in December of 2020, and
Gerard just had a really great one too.
He did, and like said, this is what are the results of this. This was coming regardless whether Trump had a second term or Biden, whoever, because what we did during COVID, we made a lot of bad mistakes, a ton of bad mistakes, and we printed a ton of money and gave people just dumped it on there. And now we're all feeling the after effects of that. Now, how we get out of that? Well, what we've done is use the Fed, right? Jerome Powell raise interest rates. That's why it's harder to buy a house.
Yeah,
it's
impossible.
That's the only way. That's what Reagan had to do in the 80s, though. Reagan did that in the 80s because we had stagflation in the 70s, and he came in there, and him and his Fed chairman was got named Volcker, and he raised interest rates, right? And they did that for several years, and then we started having an economic boom around maybe the mid 1980s, late 1980s, because all the way we knew the only way you can fight inflation is by raising interest rates, which is reducing the money supply. So that's what's been going on. That's what they had to do. So
You
I
said
mean,
the healthiest we've been was Bill Clinton when Bill Clinton was in office.
yeah, pretty much over the last maybe I
Tell
don't
me
know
about
since
his
then.
House and Senate. Were they pretty much primarily
There were,
Republican?
yeah, because that was the '94 Republican kind of takeover, and because the Republicans did not have power in Congress for like 40 years, something like that, and then they took it back in '94 or took it after decades, and
So
yeah,
that was majority Republican.
it was a
making
Republican
those
House
laws.
and Senate, right? And Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House in the 1990s, and yeah, so right, that was and they did a bipartisan compromise on that, and were able to cause a budget surplus for most of the Clinton presidency. I believe that's right.
I wish all that we had to worry about in a presidency right now was Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot, much simpler time, right? I mean, it just is a lot easier
Absolutely.
until whatever this shit show is that we're in now, which is this cause, and I mean, because politics has become our religion, it's become
Yeah.
our new religion, and it wasn't then, and I don't know what, but again, like kind of my example of why, the left says they can never understand why people like Donald Trump. And to me, that's stupid. Like, how can you not see what's going on here? People are angry because the world's passed them by and they're mad about it. And they got a right to be mad about it. And because the Republicans and Democrats have both done jack shit for them about it. And they've done nothing. They've enriched their donors and friends and they've done nothing. And Trump to them represented a guy that was going to say, hell with the system. Now, I think he enriched his donors and everybody else too. That's my opinion. But at least the representation of him to people was that he was going to fight against all of that. So I get why they voted for him. I've never been like, I don't understand why you did that. I mean, I do understand that.
I did an interview with the French. I guess it was the French version of what is it called? What did they say they were? The French version of our in English.
Oh, the French NPR, yeah.
Yeah. And which I did at your house. And it was so funny talking to these two French ladies because they were like, everyone's laughing at you guys. But the two nominees you've got,
right?
It just seems crazy. I think if Trump really pulls this out, it's going to say a lot about the support that he has because it's very obvious the way the media leans.
Oh yeah, the mainstream media is completely left. I mean, it has been for some time too. That's why Fox News was created. I was talking to someone about this yesterday, and that came out in 1996, I think. Yeah, the media has always had a bentward left. So I'll give Russ credit again. He gave me this poll the other day. It said that in 1977, 26% of journalists identified as Republicans. Today, it's like 7%. So
Well,
I mean, you
even
have
the gift shops. Like we went and looked at the founding documents, and in the gift shop there, it was all Kamala
right
merchandise. There were very little section of Trump merchandise. So,
but it was the greatest. That portion, right?
That part was definitely the greatest.
It was the most fantastic.
It was
I thought
absolutely. It was huge.
People are saying it's great.
I'm sure.
That's it. Right? So,
I mean, let's make the Trump merchandise great again.
That's it. Yeah, it was great though. He was there though.
Yeah, he was there, and I mean, you even said that. You said, I'm sitting here watching CNN say that Trump is coming to talk to a hate group who hates the gay people, who hates the lesbians and the trans, and then you had just literally spoken to a lesbian downstairs.
Yeah, no, that was I mean, but see, and you're right, and I actually, I read about that on Facebook that like their portrayal of Moms for Liberty was completely unfair, not what I experienced. But then the next day we had the experience where there was some speaker at that event who made a lot of anti-gay rhetoric.
Not a Moms for Liberty.
Not a mom, but she like when you lie down with dogs, you get fleas, and that's kind of what I think happens, And I mean, I'm not saying Moms for Liberty was part of that, but like that speaker showing up and talking about what like Jesus strike down the gays or whatever they said.
It was a demonic.
Yeah, demonic something. Yeah, right. I mean, this crazy land stuff. And but that kind of person, like that comes off on you. And unfairly, I'm saying, but then, because they're there speaking at your event and that causes, issues. When you guys are not about that, and I agree with that. So.
Right. Well, I mean, and I want to ask you this. I want you to tell all the viewers this. How many books have you actually seen me burn?
I think sorry, my throat's cut off. I don't know. I've never seen you read a book, so I can't relate.
You're such a liar. You're such a liar.
I mean, you can't burn your Kindle. I mean, you can't burn your Kindle. You'd actually have to read your book. I mean, the vodka bottle label, is that?
I love, you're such a comedian. You're such. It's a good thing you're funny.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you're cute. Oh, whatever. You've never seen me burn a book, people.
We'll be right back.
You can't burn what you don't have.
You know that's such a lie. I hate you. you so much. All right. Well, I think we're out of time.
Yeah, looks like
On
it.
that note, I've burned no books at all.
Yeah.
Even though there is one I
What?
kind of would like to burn at your house.
Which one is that?
What is it? Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, my Nancy Pelosi book. I haven't even read that yet. Oh. Yeah, I'll let you borrow it. I'm done.
Might not get it back.
Yeah, you can pass around the Republican women thing and everybody can read it.
Yeah. Daniel, his sister told me I couldn't come near her books or her Kindle.
Yeah. Yep. So
no book burning here.
Right.
Well, yeah, so yeah, I mean, you can kind of see what it's like to be a fly on the wall when we're talking.
Yeah, it's an interesting relationship we've got here. You know how that happened. I guess we could talk about that in other episodes and
yeah.
You know,
we haven't killed each other yet.
No, not yet, you know. So
we still got time.
We got time. We got one more 11 days, right? Till the election.
I'll kill you and get
I'm kind of scared for Kamala to win for the shit I'm gonna take, you know. I'm kind of nervous. I never thought of it. I think I may vote for it, but lie about it. I was thinking about doing that. I was like,
if you end up killing me, please get Bridget Todd to defend you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's it. I think I'll defend myself. I think I'll be all right there.
Well, and Shaun does have a law firm. You are a defense attorney. Tell everybody about your law firm.
Yeah, I run the Yurtcron Law Firm. I do state and federal criminal defense, and I've been practicing law for 19 years this month. By the way, in Mississippi. I know. Man. And, you know, I had 10 years of that as an assistant DA in Hinds County, and I worked at the Attorney General's office. I have handled every kind of criminal case that you can think of, and it's caused me a lot of PTSD, but that PTSD can help you if you F around and mess up, and I can help you out. So give me a call, 601-906-9094, or you can just message me on my Facebook page. People do that all the time, and I talk to them.
If it's about a law.
If it's about a law. Yeah, right. That's it. About a law question. That's it. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. You got it.
Right.
Got it.
Well, I'm sure Shaun will be back.
Yep, sure.
We can talk more.
Right.
Politics.
Yeah, we can go through that abortion debate again. That's
about how I'm right about all these things. Everybody get out to vote. If nothing else, get out and vote.
Yeah, get out and vote.
And Shaun's going to write my name in.
That's
for
it.
President.
Right next to the vice president. No.
All right, have a good week. We'll see you next week.
See you.